So I want you to flip all the way to the back page. Page 16 and 17 are what we're going to do today. Again, this is going to be not tested on. Originally, we were going to teach this on Tuesday and review today, test tomorrow. And me and Ms. Gandhi got together and said, who wants to test the Friday before spring break? Let's move that, and we'll just take this off the test. So this is still going to be on your TEKS test. You still have to know it, and it also will be on the final. So what we're talking about today is nonlinear inequalities. What is a nonlinear inequality? Nonlinear. Not a line. Inequality. Not equal. So we are dealing with non-lines that are less than or greater than. So here are the 4 steps we are going to be doing, and we are going to be finding solutions. The first thing we are going to do is rearrange so that 0 is on the right side. We want everything to equal, well, not equal, but less than or greater than 0. Step 2 is going to be to find zeros by setting the polynomial or rational expression equal to 0. The important part about this is I want you to find the zeros. If it's a rational function, as a reminder, x-intercepts, you set the numerator equal to 0. Then we're going to use the zeros to separate I believe this is supposed to be the graph, I think, into intervals. And last but not least, we are going to substitute a number into each interval and shade. Your answers for all of these should be S equals, and it'll either be brackets, parentheses, or solution sets if it's just a number. Okay? So we're going to actually do 5 examples. We'll do 1 example on the other page. Can I slide up? Okay. So first one, what do I do first? Move everything to the left, because what do I want on the right side? 0. So I'm going to subtract 4x and subtract 12. Please write this down. And then what am I going to do? Step 2 is to find the zeros by factoring. Now I didn't write factor up there because it's not always going to be factoring. Sometimes you're going to be solving. And then for this, what are my zeros going to be? Minus 6 plus 2. Now, do you agree this is equal to? So what kind of circle is it going to give me? This is going to give me a closed circle. And is this less than or greater than? It is less than. So we are going to be looking at numbers less than 0 are negative. So because it's a closed circle, I know that my x will equal 6 and negative 2. Do you agree with that? So to find the solution, I am going to draw a graph, a number line, because this is going to help me find my solution. And I'm going to draw closed circles at negative 2 and at 6. Now, to figure out how to shade, yes, it's less than, but it doesn't just mean I'm going to shade less than 0 and those are my answers. So what I'm going to do is, what step 4 is, we use the zeros to separate the graph into intervals. We just did that. Now we're going to do step 4, which is substituting numbers in to figure out if I'm going to shade. So do you agree? I have 2 numbers right here. And I have 1, 2, 3 intervals going on. Do y'all agree with that? So I'm going to substitute a number from each interval into this right here to figure out if it's less than 0 or greater than 0. My advice, This interval right here, go big. The bigger your number, the more obvious it's going to be. You could do -3. You could do -4. But then you're going to have to think a little harder. I like to do -100. Do y'all agree that's still somewhere over here? And do you agree the answer is going to be a little bit more obvious if I put in -100? Do y'all see what I'm saying? So, I'm going to plug in -100 into x. If I plug in -100 into x, what do I get? -106. If I plug -100 into this, I get -98. I actually don't even care about the number. What I care about is what sign will I end up with. A negative and a negative is going to give me a, whatever number you put right here, you're going to get a positive answer. Does that make sense why that works? Like I could choose -3. If I plug in -3, you agree I'm going to get -9? If I plug in -3, do you get, I'm going to get -1? And a negative times a negative is a positive. So when I do this substituting in, all I care about is the sign. I don't really care about the number. So what number would you substitute in this interval? 0. So if I plug into 0 to both of these spots, what's -6 times 2? So this interval will always give me a negative. And then I'm going to test something on this side. Again, could I test 7, 8, or 9? Sure. Could I also test 100? Sure. So if I plug in 100 into both of these x's, do you agree I'm going to get a positive number and a positive number? What's a positive times a positive? Now, which interval am I going to shade in? Why the middle? Because this is less than 0, we're going to shade in the negatives. So then what is my solution? Bracket -2, 6. That is my answer. What questions do I have? We're okay? All right, slide down to number 2. Number 2 is not next to it, it's down. All right, what are we going to do here? What? Move everything over so that I can get 0 on the right. So I'm moving everything to the left and switch the sign. Now what? I can factor out a Do y'all agree with that? You could write it as x minus 2 squared, but you don't have to. Is this an open circle or a closed circle? Open. So is it going to equal these zeros? No. What's it not going to equal? What are my zeros? 2 and 0, because of that x out front. And is it less than or greater than? All right, I'm going to draw my number line. I'm going to put 0 and 2. And I'm going to have open circles on both of them. Are we okay so far? Now what do we do? Test the points and see what's going on. So I'm going to test this interval. What number do y'all want to test in this interval? -100. So if I plug in negative to 100 into each of these x's, do you agree I'm going to get a negative, a negative, and a negative? What's negative times negative times negative? Negative. What's between 0 and 2? So if I plug a 1 into each of these, I'm going to get 1, negative, negative. So what's 1 times negative times negative? A positive. Is that making sense? And then last, what number do you want to test from this interval? If I plug in 100 into all of these, do you agree I'm going to get positive, positive, positive? Which is a... So where am I going to shade here? From 0 to all of the positives. It's greater than, so I'm going to do all of the positives. So what is my solution here? Is it 0 to infinity? Why not? Because it doesn't include 2. So how do I write this? Perfect. Do I have any questions on polynomial inequalities? Bless you. All right. Now we're going to move on to rational inequalities. So that's polynomials. Solve it out. Can I change it? All right. Number 3, rational inequalities. What's different about this? It's a fraction. It's a rational function. All right. There is going to be one extra thing with rational functions. And that's, what do we have on the bottom here? A restriction. What kind of restriction is that? What is that when we graphed? What did this tell us? It's a vertical asymptote. We now have a vertical asymptote. So because of that, anytime we have a vertical asymptote, that is going to be what on my graph? It's going to be an open circle. It will always be an open circle if it's a vertical asymptote. Oh, by the way, I need to factor this. Do y'all agree this is going to give me that? We okay with that? So what are my zeros? Is it open circle or closed circle on my zeros? So this, we're going to go back. The vertical asymptote will have an open circle. But what about this right here? Closed circle. And less than or greater than? Greater than. So it's a closed circle. So my zeros are going to be x equals what? Set your numerator equal to 0. -2 and 1. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to draw my graph. And I'm going to have -2, -1, and 1. And I'll have a closed circle on my zeros and an open circle on my asymptote. And then I want you to just test the points out. Over here, what am I going to plug in? -100. If I plug in -100 to all three of these, do you agree I'm going to get a negative, a negative, and a negative? What's a negative times a negative? Divided by a negative? Negative. What's in between -2 and -1? negative 1.5. So if I were to plug in negative 1.5 into all of these, I'm going to get a positive, negative 1.5 plus 1 is negative 0.5. So what is a positive times a negative divided by a negative? Two negatives make a positive. And also be careful, just because this is negative, it's not always going to go negative, positive, negative, positive. So just be careful, because right here was proof of that, right? Okay. So you have to test each interval. So what's in between negative 1 and 1? 0. So if I plug in 0, do you agree I get 2 times negative 1 divided by 1? Which is positive times a negative divided by a positive? Negative. And do you also agree if I plug in 100, 100, 100, I get a positive? What am I going to shade? Positive. So my solution, I should start further back because it's not going to have enough room. So my solution here is going to be bracket negative 2 to negative 1 parenthesis. Union with what? Bracket 1 to infinity. So rational functions just have one extra step. That extra step is always going to be an open circle for your vertical asymptote. What questions can I answer so far? We good? All right, look at number 4. Number 4 is special. Your gut feeling on number 4 is not what we're going to do. First of all, what do we need to do? Move the 7. So do you agree I'm going to have x plus 12 over x minus 7 is less than 0? What does your gut tell you to do now? What does it tell you to do? Cross out what? You can't cross out the x's because there's a plus in between. Multiply by x is usually, don't y'all usually want to get rid of the fraction? We cannot do that here, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit, but we can't do it. But what we can do is, can I make them all have an x in the denominator? I can by multiplying this by x over x and this by x over x. Why can I do that? What's x over x? 1. It's just like multiplying by 1. So I want to make them equivalent. This makes them equivalent. Do you agree when I do that, that gives me x squared over x plus 12 over x minus 7x over x. Do y'all agree that's what it gives me? And then they all have a common denominator of x, so I can put that on the bottom. And I'm going to rearrange these. Does that make sense what I did and why I did it? And then what do we normally do? Factor. Now, why could I not just multiply by x and be done with it? How come I had to do it by x over x? How come I had to leave the x on the bottom? Because that's a vertical asymptote. And if you don't do it, you might forget that there's a vertical asymptote. Where's my vertical asymptote going to be at? 0. And as a reminder, that's going to be an open circle, always. So somebody last period, they said, Miss Olivares, what if I just know that that's a vertical asymptote? I said it and I write it, and then can I just multiply by x? My answer is still no. Why? Because when you plug in here, don't we have to plug in the divided by x to see if it works? Yeah. So when you plug in here, you have to plug in the divided by x. And if you forget that x right there, that's going to change your positive or negative. What are my zeros here? It's an open circle right here. What are my zeros? What is x not going to equal with an open circle? 3 and 4. So I'm going to have open circle at 0, open circle at 3, open circle at 4. Use this equation right here and test out these points to see if where is it positive, where is it negative, and find the solution. I'm going to give you all about 1 minute. Look up when you're done. Did you get that answer? Can I clarify anything? Did I do it right? Ask me.
If you made x1, wouldn't it be two negatives on top and then a positive at the bottom? So wouldn't that also be negative?
No, 2 negatives on top is a negative and a negative.
Oh, positive.
And a positive. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yep. What else? Okay, real quick. Turn your paper over. I just want to address one that you're going to have on your homework. Number 12. You're going to have one like number 12 on your homework, so I want to make sure you know how to do this. What am I going to do to answer number 12? What do I do first? Minus 2. So that's going to give me 3x minus 5 over x plus 2 minus 2 is less than or equal to 0. And then what am I going to need to do? I'm going to have to do the x plus 2 on the top and the bottom here. Just like we did the x and the x. And do you agree I can then put them all under 1 x plus 2? By the way, I am totally fine with you skipping this step right here and going there. I'm just doing it for your notes and to show you. And then what can I do here? Combine like terms. And I get, do I get negative x? Negative 1x minus 9? Ooh, why do I think I did that wrong last period? That's wrong. What did I do wrong? Yeah, what's it supposed to be? I'm like, we did not get that answer last period. What did I do wrong? It's -2. I don't know what I did that for. Alright. And then x plus 2 is less than or equal to 0. What is my 0? 9. What is my vertical asymptote? And then from here, y'all know how to do it, right? But same concept. And then you're going to plug into this equation right here to see, hey, if I plug in -100, negative and a negative, if I plug in 0, and if I plug in positive 100. What is going to be my answer here? And hey, look, the answer's right at the bottom of this page. Oh, I did that wrong. It's open. What's open? The vertical asymptote should be an open circle. All right, this paper right here, that page 17, that's just extra practice. I'm not going to expect you to do it all. Could you do it if you want extra practice? No. Absolutely sure. But am I going to check it or anything like that? Not unless you ask me a specific question. You have about 20 minutes. You can do your homework, finish it in class, turn it in. You can start your homework, not finish it, finish it tomorrow. You can not do it all at home, do nothing tomorrow. You can do nothing tonight and today and then do it all tomorrow, whatever you choose. Your homework is this right here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. So I'm going to post that on the board right now.